Hello and welcome to SBI Mutual Fund Investment Ideas. I'm Jagu, and today we're talking about the SBI Multicap Fund, their new mutual fund offer that is about to hit the market. We have with us on the show today Mr. TP Singh. He's the Chief Business Officer at SBI Mutual Fund, as well as Mr. R. Srinivasan, the Chief Investment Officer for Equities at the fund. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and taking the time out to be able to explain what this new NFO is all about.
Thank you for having us, Jagu.
Thank you, Jagu.
Mr. Singh, let me come to you first. Potential first-time investors, they've been looking at this rising market over the last year and a half, and they're more aware of it. There have been conversations happening. There's been headlines. You go on a train, literally conversations wahan shuru ho jate about how people are making money in the market. New IPOs have been coming. They have been making headlines. Now, they want to participate in this. They're only, let's say, they buy gold or they invest in fixed deposits. They want to invest in this, but literally being first-timers, they don't know how. Is a multi-cap fund the ideal vehicle for them?
Absolutely, Jagu. Actually, this was the basic thought behind when we went to the drawing table and when we were discussing about this, that the people have seen most of the people have seen only one side of the market, keep rising for the last 3 years. But they don't know they're doing it without any research. I'm not saying everybody, but a majority of them, they just hear from somebody, as you rightly said. They heard in the trains, they heard from somebody, and they just put in the money without knowing how the company is. It's not about marketing, it's all about the facts, data, which mutual funds are known for having a very, very strong team in general. But in SBI Mutual Fund, we are absolutely proud of our team and absolutely proud of our analytical abilities. So that we thought that for them, when they don't know, they're not aware about large cap, mid cap, small cap. So there are good companies in large cap. There are very good companies in mid cap who are going to be large cap, and there are small cap companies which are doing so well. So we, as a team in the fund house, we know that we are doing pretty well. For them, they are the real target audience for this when they are starting their journey. Without being bogged down by which cap, which sector, they should come to one fund where a team is working for them, a team of research analysts, so that they don't have a bad experience. Because what we have seen in the past, when people come at a wrong time in a wrong stock or in a wrong fund, they burn their fingers and then they don't come for decades. They just hate the world market. So we don't want that to happen. We have put in the whole team working for this particular fund where all the first timers, not only millennials, but so many people who are there, because the penetration rate is so low in our country. We want people to come in such a fund as a long-term investment strategy and bear the fruits of the growth story of Indian economy.
So this is the whole movement of going from savers to investors. Making that move is what you're encouraging.
Yeah. Basically, we will call it a movement from Jan Dhan to Jan Nivesh. We want more and more people to come into this.
Bilkul sahi. Mr. Singh, you made an interesting point about people coming in a booming market. They've not seen a full cycle and then they burn their fingers and then they stay out. Now, there are some people who have moved one step ahead from a potential first-time investor who is looking to convert from a saver to an investor. Now, there are those who during the lockdown had their first taste of the market. घर पे बैठे हैं, screen तो है, it's very convenient to trade direct equity. It's also cheap to do that. तो चलो शुरू कर लेते हैं. Now, they've done that. They've tasted blood, as it were. But now they're going back to work. There's a 9 to 5 focus that is somewhere else. It's not in your 9 to 3 wala market. However, because they have made money, they want to continue investing and they realize that they don't have the time to do it. So there needs to be a longer term strategy. There needs to be somebody who is focusing on their behalf. Is this the right way to do it, a multi-cap fund, or should they be doing something else?
No. James, there's one more point. When we say that they have made money notionally. This is on papers only. When it will remain or will not remain, it's better to have lock in that profit and put in a fund where since you don't have time, let somebody else work for you who is doing 24/7, working for you in a very, very analytical and very, very research manner. So it's better to get into the mutual funds, and multi-cap is the best strategy for that people. So they can do that.
Singh Saab, you had earlier used an analogy, I remember, of in medical terminology, a GP, a general practitioner versus a multi-speciality hospital.
Yeah, of course.
How does that work? How do you use that analogy in the markets? आप हमें समझाएं.
वो मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि यार मेरे पास अभी पैसा है, मेरे को कोई बीमारी है, बीमारी का इलाज करवाने मैं जीपी के पास जाता हूँ, जीपी टेक्स 500 rupees, 300 rupees, this thing for me. And thus, at the same cost, if I go to a multi-specialty hospital where there is every kind of specialist, whether it's a neurosurgeon, whether it is orthopedician, whether it is a dietitian, whether it is gastroenterologist, whatever is you want, and you have the multiple tests with especially so with the same fee. Okay, why will not I go to the multi-specialty hospital? Especially so, the cost is also the same.
At the same cost, if I can buy expertise, then why am I trying to figure it out for myself?
Yes, that's the point.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Srinivasan sir, let me come to you. There's often this debate about should we invest in a already existing mutual fund, whatever that scheme is, or should we put money into an NFO and then you're along for the ride from inception? Now, there's multiple multi-cap funds that are already in the market, but this particular one from SBI, the SBI Multicap Fund, is coming with a bit of a unique proposition. The analysts are going to have a larger role to play in it than usual.
It is. It is. You're very excited about it, to be honest.
How will that work?
तो ये जो मीडिया है ना, मीडिया ने फंड मैनेजर को बहुत चढ़ा के रखा है.
Acha.
Right? So I think this whole alpha male, this lone wolf maverick is a myth. Especially, मतलब ठीक है यार, मतलब I am South Indian, I love South Indian movies. Extreme hero, extreme villain. Bollywood में भी अपना सिंघम चलता है, सलमान खान चलता है. But investment management में you have a research team, you have a set of analysts. There's nothing negative to a single guy taking decisions, but you have to recognize that the circle of competence is limited. That guy is biased towards certain styles. He's biased towards stuff he knows better, which is obviously, he's kind of a jack of all. He has skill sets in a location, which is relevant. But it's very important to ensure that the individual sector analyst, the experts who do the grind, who meet the companies, mid-level managements, जो channel check करते हैं, plant visit करते हैं, fund manager भी करता है, as an analyst करता है. But एक IT analyst है हमारे पास, consumer analyst है, infrastructure analyst है, cement analyst है. These guys, they're all senior guys in our team. Now, how do you, and we've always thought about how to assimilate or decentralize decision making to ensure that we optimize the best of the individual brilliance and an investment process which comes with a lot of rigor and analytics. So, we've been working on this for quite a few years. We already run a sector agnostic fund, and this one is proposed to be a high conviction portfolio driven or originated by the analyst team. So it is unique in that sense.
So I must ask you this, sir. I'm accepting the uniqueness, but how does an analyst decide what is a high conviction idea for him? And then, of course, he has to come and present it to you. I mean, what are the gradations? What makes a high conviction idea?
So we have like 15 analysts, right, covering sectors across IT and consumer and infrastructure. He has a set of stocks that he covers. So let's say I, as an analyst, cover around 30 stocks. Now, within those 30 stocks, I like certain stocks. I don't like certain stocks. Within the stocks I like certain stocks more, which is a function of the framework that you apply for stock selection. It could be based on incremental fundamental change, rising expectations, relative valuations, right? We look at a lot more. For example, we have a very cliched philosophy where basically what we're trying to do is buy a strong business model run by good people at reasonable valuations. But each of these buckets, there is a detailed discussion that goes on. So analyst he knows all these factors. He applies that. And then he says, these are my top picks. ये मेरे को सबसे ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा. Then he ranks them. He also puts a confidence score, which is based on the volatility of his expectation. Because we are in the business of predicting the future, which cannot be predicted. But that is an occupational hazard. तो कोई चीज ज़्यादा volatile होंगे because of the underlying nature. कोई चीज में मेरे को कम पता होगा. Right? तो वो basis में he will also apply a confidence score. And that will determine कि यार ये 25 स्टॉक में मेरे को 7 स्टॉक बहुत पसंद है, उसमें वो बाय डालेगा, उसके अंदर भी वो रैंक देगा. तो मेरे पास आज के दिन में I have like so we have a universe of like 360 odd stocks. Within that, right now, as I'm talking, because we've been doing this for the last couple of years, we have a buy list of around 81 odd stocks. Now I will curate that and reduce it to around 30-35, depending on the size of the fund that we are able to.
And those 30-35 are purely high conviction ideas that an analyst has come to you with saying, I am fully convinced about this.
हाँ, मतलब analyst कुछ अच्छा लगता है.
Bilkul. Okay, which is where this is analyst driven, and that analyst then drives his high conviction ideas to you, and that is the collection that goes into the SBI Multicap.
So the idea generation is from the analyst, or fund management में you make money from sizing. So ये actually अपने market में तो बहुत लोग दिखते हैं, ये stock मेरे को पता था, ये तो मैंने इसमें 5 गुना बनाया, डाला कितना 10,000 रुपए,
हाँ,
conviction नहीं था.
correct.
हाँ, तो how much money you make is based on how much money you put. तो वो साइजिंग फंड मैनेजर करेगा, एंड दिस इज अ इंटरैक्टिव प्रोसेस वेयर यू हैव टू फिगर आउट, एंड this whole process cannot become stale. So we discuss on a monthly basis the best ideas, why something is ranked higher, why something has a higher confidence score. Then we have huge disagreements, and then we debate that. That kind of fine tunes the whole conviction.
Fair enough, and that's actually quite important, because we've seen a booming market, and yes, for an individual investor, he'll, without applying his or her mind to it, will allocate exactly the same amount of money to all stocks. So 10,000. As an individual investor, I have no concept of this one is going to do better, or I am highly convinced about this. So I will hedge my bets and put equal amounts in all stock. Here you have a bunch of analysts coming to you with high conviction ideas, and then there is a separate layer which also decides, okay, now how much money to be putting into it in terms of should I be overcommitting to this or not? And that's a decision that gets made after rigorous research.
Yes, and there is ownership. This is what I want to bring out. Analysts in a lot of houses, even in our earlier avatar long back, analysts have an advisory kind of role. Advice में क्या होता है यार, मैंने बोल दिया ये अच्छा लगता है, ठीक है. जब तुमको अपने पैसे डालने हैं उसमें, when you have to put your money where your mouth is, then the whole opinion, the view changes depending on how much money you'll put. अभी मैंने आपको बोला कि आपका जो सैलरी है, so let you are a stock picker and you tell me that boss वासन ये स्टॉक्स तो बहुत बढ़िया करेंगे. फिर मैंने बोला कि तुम्हारा जितना सेविंग्स है ना 90% वो स्टॉक में डालो. फिर थोड़ी मतलब you'll kind of go back. बोले नहीं यार इतना नहीं डालूंगा यार, 10% डालूंगा. Suddenly the conviction comes out when you have to put real money. So here we are going to implement these decisions. Real money will be put in those stocks that they are recommending. I think that kind of bridges the advisory role and makes it a lot more ownership based, which is the positive aspect when there is a fund manager. Because fund manager का क्या है? He manages, उसका नाम छपता है, उसके against performance होता है. So there is clearly a ownership. In this case, we'll ensure that the analysts have ownership into whatever ideas are brought into this fund.
Absolutely. Now, Vasan sir, when we look at your large caps, your mid caps, your small caps, all of that, one sector will invariably outperform the other sector, or one type of fund will outperform the other type of fund invariably. A multi-cap fund sort of takes care of that situation. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the SBI Multicap fund, we're looking at 25% each in large cap, mid cap, and small cap.
Right.
How are you strategizing the balance 25%?
So arithmetically, actually, ये भरी जाएंगे ना, तो 25% तो regulatory limit है. We will have some buffer because stocks are volatile, so they will keep moving from one bucket to the other. So let's assume that we'll have at least 27% on an average in each of these buckets. 27 आप जोड़ दो तो 81% तो वही हो गया. Typically we'll have, if we're running a high conviction portfolio, 4-5% cash तो होगा, तो आपका हो गया 86%. If I look at the high conviction list that I have right now, I have 2 stocks there which are not Indian stocks, they're global stocks. We have Alphabet and we've got Netflix. तो मैं तो वो भी खरीदूंगा, assuming that I have a global stock which is the analyst high conviction, वो भी खरीदूंगा. समझो उसमें मैंने 4 ले लिया तो हो गया आपका, तो बचा कितना, 5 या 7 हुआ.
So the 4-5% is left.
तो वैसे भी ज्यादा बचा नहीं, but having said that, even assuming that this 4, 5, 7 or becomes 15%, assuming that I have no international stocks, this 15% will be I will decide where to put it, or the team will decide based on the strength of the idea. मतलब ऐसा कुछ, there is no predetermined bias.
Fair.
मतलब ऐसा हम लोग सोच के कुछ जा नहीं रहे कि small cap लेना है, large cap लेना है. We're not going to distinguish between caps. We'll buy the stock that seems the best, subject to liquidity.
And because you have that flexibility, we're hoping that's what will be your outperformance.
नहीं, outperformance तो stock selection से आएगा, even within the 25%, 27%. तो benchmark में कुछ और होगा, हमारे पास कुछ और होगा.
बिल्कुल.
And we'll do better than the benchmark.
Fair enough. and we're sincerely hoping that will happen. You made an interesting point. There's going to be, within this multi-cap fund, investments also made in global stocks. What kind of markets are you looking at? Now, I remember you already mentioned a Netflix and an Alphabet, but over time, I'm sure that will change. Will it only be US markets, or is the world your oyster?
So technically, the world is our oyster, but abhi filhal our coverage is limited. So we have hardly 5-6 stocks under coverage, and we will expand this as time goes. Resource constraint hai filhal, but the idea is to ensure that we have.
Fair enough. From a research point of view.
जैसे अभी Indian universe, I told you that the Indian passive universe is close to 700 odd stocks. We have an active universe of 366 stocks. जब मैं active बोलता हूँ उसमें we have a target price, earnings model, we have a recommendation, we have these updates, and we have to do these channel checks and meet managements across, right? तो वो 350 स्टॉक में करते हैं. International में भी हमको ये at least we want to take this up to 50 or 100. We are nowhere close. We are just buying the better ones based on a preliminary screener, but we will expand this as time goes.
Excellent. And Singh sir, let me come back to you. Since we're focusing on multi-cap funds right now, does a multi-cap fund have a different holding period from another mutual fund or even direct equity, if you will?
Before I respond to your question, Jago, I think now you will understand the analogy of a multi-specialty hospital better. Why I called it a multi-specialty hospital.
Yes, absolutely.
The way Vasan has explained it, the kind of hard work, the kind of giving ownership. जैसे एक डॉक्टर को बोलते हैं ना जो सर्जरी करनी है उसकी ओनरशिप तेरी है, तो वही चीज इसमें हो रही है. So that's why I called it, and without charging any higher fee. Okay, that's the
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने सर.
yeah. बाकी जहाँ तक ये इसका सवाल है कि देखिए इक्विटी मार्केट में जब भी हम irrespective of either it is a multi cap fund or it's a large cap fund or another diversified fund, तो हम हमेशा यही बोलते हैं तो मिनिमम पीरियड 3 से 5 साल तो होना ही चाहिए. And there's a general tendency when I am investing, suppose I am investing, there will at some point of time I will need money. So we have seen on an average the cycle is 3 to 4 years. And generally people tend to withdraw, tend to redeem and then put in some other asset class. But one good thing has happened over the period of time that the choice between the different asset classes is very, very limited. If you look at the options available today, the real estate as an investment category has gone down drastically. So people don't have an option. Whosoever is buying a flat or anything, they are buying for their use. Nobody is putting money. Nobody is proud of having 5 flats or 7 flats or 8 flats. I'm talking about the rich people. Okay. Then gold also the interest is coming down a bit. So it has to be in the equities. It will continue to be there. People keep on changing depending upon their advices which they get over the period of time. But generally, the holding period will more or less will remain same. But if somebody is satisfied, it could be a little longer also. Yeah.
Fair enough. You also have interesting SIP and STP options, if I'm not mistaken, within the SBI mutual fund universe.
Yeah.
I believe there is something called the Mitra SIP and the Smart Switch STP. Could you just briefly explain that to us?
Yeah. The Mitra SIP and Smart, basically we are saying there's a in everybody's life, there's a accumulation stage and there's a deaccumulation stage. When I'm in a accumulation stage, suppose I'm say investing for my retirement or the time when I don't work and I have to use the money which I earned during accumulation period, it will keep on collecting, it will keep on getting topped up year on year basis. And once you reach a particular point of time, it will start going into the deaccumulation stage, go to the safer funds, and then you can have a regular flow. So it will be part of it's like a solution, giving a solution. If you want to put in for 10 years, put in for 10 years. So next 10 years you will keep on taking back. And the best part in this is it's not that you can put only that much amount. If at any point of time you have something extra, you can put the money in the same folio. Suppose I'm putting 20,000 rupees per month. In some particular month, I've got bonus or I've got some windfall. I can put 5 lakh rupees more. And I can change seamlessly and I can change it, everything being done digitally. So this is like a solution which we are providing. It may not have much takers at this point of time, but over the period of time, because it's a fund which is going to remain there for perpetuity. It's not for 1 year or 2 year or 3 year fund. over the period of time, it makes sense. I'll give you an example. Now we have we were talking about see aggressive hybrid fund, which is being managed by Vasan, by the way. That fund used to be 500 crores fund 5 years ago. Today, this fund is 50,000 crore fund. We've got 50,000 crore rupees in this fund. So this has become, at that point, it was small, but it will keep on happening. It is the dynamic stage, but we are giving the solution which is good for investors.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to that and to a successful NFO. And Mr. Srinivasan, Mr. Singh, thank you so much for doing this, taking out the time and walking us through your new NFO, the SBI Multicap Fund. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jagu. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure entirely. And of course, feel free to follow the podcast, also to share the podcast. There's a whole bunch of knowledge to be gleaned. There's a whole bunch of information to be gleaned from this. We're looking forward to also hearing from you in our comment section. And any feedback that you have is more than welcome. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
SBI Multicap is an open-ended equity scheme investing across large cap, mid cap, small cap stocks. Investment under the scheme shall be at a very high risk. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.